Well, happy birthday to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And happy birthday to any of you celebrating your birthdays this September the 8th. You know, for me, this gospel has two parts. So I would say the first half is more Old Testament, second half more New Testament. I'm not an Old or New Testament scholar, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sorry. You know, St. Joseph here is one of the figures here. Where clearly what's happening in this first half is Abraham is being connected to the Davidic kingdom, and then the Davidic kingdom all the way to Joseph, and by extension, Jesus. Another thing that kind of comes up here is this exile that takes place, the two exiles that takes place, the suffering that the people of God experience from being pulled from their country to exile, back to their country to be exiled again. So God definitely knows or knew the suffering of his people. The other point is the genealogy itself. So the individuals, some of these folks did some really crazy stuff. And you would think Jesus would have chosen another set of folks to be part of the family, right? But you know what? We don't choose who our family members are, and neither did Jesus. And yet he came to liberate us from our human conditions, even our own family members. So if you're dealing with a family member right now that's causing some suffering to your family, bring it to Jesus. He definitely knows. The second half, though, is a little bit more about the New Testament, at least to my perspective. So you have Joseph here, who is about to marry, I'm sure, the woman of his dreams, and yet she's pregnant. And then he receives this dream. He has this dream where he understands that the son who she's carrying is the Messiah. And so there's a whole sense of Joseph being a man of God's providence and protection here. The other point, though, is about the Blessed Virgin Mary, whose birthday, nativity, we're celebrating today. And by the way, I should say, how many birthdays do we celebrate in the church? I can only count 3. So, the Blessed Virgin Mary, her son Jesus, okay, and his cousin St. John the Baptist. So that's how you know this today's feast is kind of important here in the grand scheme of things and in the history of salvation. Who would have known that her simple yes, when Gabriel came to her and she said, yes, I'll do it, and the Holy Spirit overshadowed her. Who would have known? Maybe even she didn't know how important this changed the world and the cosmos and history itself. But it didn't go without suffering. I'm sure the Blessed Virgin Mary wasn't for sure. Will Joseph accept me? Will he understand what I just did? Would he understand what God is doing in my life? So, brothers and sisters, this is very much tied to our yes to God. You know, as we meditate on the scriptures, as we say and answer to the vocation that he's given us, guess what? We have an example. The Blessed Virgin Mary, she's that example to us. And she's not just an example, she can accompany us in our yes. And that yes will come with the suffering, just like it came for her. But she will be there to help us through it. So I encourage you, brothers and sisters, you know, I actually changed my middle name to Maria. That's how much of a devotion I have to the Blessed Virgin Mary, but I could do more. So I encourage you, if you don't have much of a devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, or you say, well, you know, I go with Saint such and such, and, you know, I go to Jesus or to Saint such and such, and the Blessed Virgin Mary is just kind of out there. Everyone else likes devotion to her. No, remember, she had that first yes that you said, so it's imperative to have that relationship with her. It's imperative to ask her for your intercession. If you already have a devotion to her and you're like, well, I pray the rosary every day, I do this, I do that, guess what? Deepen it. Meditate a little bit more on those mysteries of the rosary to understand deeply how that yes of Mary and your yes is changing or has changed the world for the greater good of salvation in Jesus Christ. That's what this is all about. So, brothers and sisters, let us give thanks to God for the Blessed Virgin Mary, for her yes, for her intercession throughout the church, throughout the entire world, especially to those churches that are in persecution. Just give thanks to God for that motherly care. She's the mother of the church. She's the saint of the saints. How could we not go to our mother? God bless you and have a blessed weekend. Peace.